Good evening. I would like to announce that a quorum is present. This meeting has been duly called and the notice of the meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act. We will now convene in closed session without objection as authorized by Texas Government Code Section 551, specifically 551.074, 551.072, and 551.071. The time is 6 p.m. Dr. Waddell, if you're in the building, thank you, sir. The time is now 7:05 p.m. We will convene into open session now. If you'd please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance to the United States. Welcome to the October meeting. Welcome to our new platform guests. We're going to see how much they love this. We will now consider items discussed in closed session. Do we hear a motion for the personnel items?
I make a motion that we approve the recommendations by staff in closed session.
Okay, we have a motion, Ms. Latham, second, Mr. McDaniel. That's on all. I'm going to clarify the question. You're moving to approve all items considering closed session, which includes personnel and the recommendations regarding real property.
Yes.
That's clear. And second, Mr. McDaniel, as you understood the question, that's correct?
Yes.
Is there any discussion on the question? Okay, we'll vote then. All in favor? As unanimous, Ms. Arnold. Boards and presentations. We'll call it Dr. Waddell, sorry.
That's all right. I'm going to pass this over to Dr. Riddell.
Supposed to be. Good evening. We would like to ask Susan Wren and the folks that she will be recognizing to come up. There you are. I couldn't find you. Come on up, Susan. Susan is in charge of world languages for Lewisville ISD, and she has her Latin students and some parents, it looks like, that we are going to recognize for outstanding work.
Yes, if our two Latin students and their teachers would come on up. We had several Latin students that went to Kentucky this summer. Several of them couldn't be here. They've either graduated or we had a couple that had to work tonight. But they attended the National Junior Classical League Convention Conference in Richmond, Kentucky this summer for a week, the end of July. There were over 1,800 students from all across the United States that were there this summer. And we have a couple of our top-notch winners. First, we have Abby Haynes from Marcus High School, who you can see. Abby won first place for her costume at the area contest, and then first place at the state contest, and she won third place in nationals. Her costume is, let me make sure I've got it all right, agave. And she also got first place with a couple of marionettes that she made. She didn't bring those tonight. Would you like to say anything about agave or who agave was? No. Abby goes to Marcus High School, so congratulations, Abby. We also have up here Mr. Adam Sales from Flower Mound High School. Adam had took several students also to the contest in Kentucky, and they all placed, but they've all gone off to college now. So Adam came representing the Latin students at Flower Mound High School. Good job, Adam. We also had students from Hebron High School that went along with their teachers, Ms. Courtney Herring and Mr. Alex Best. And the two students that we had that are still here and had placed at nationals both had to work tonight, so they couldn't come. Next to Mr. Sales is Mrs. Melisande Santos, who is the Marcus Latin teacher. And she is the proud teacher of these two students and several others of hers who also placed and have gone off to college. And then the last person I want to introduce is Emily Sparks. And Emily got Best in Show, the best, higher than first place, better than anybody else out of all of those 1,800 students from across the United States, for her dramatic interpretation of Arethusa and Ceres. And she was asked to perform in front of the entire awards assembly of 1,800 students and their teachers. In this passage, she's going to perform for us tonight. And in this passage from Ovid, Arethusa, a nymph, is speaking to Ceres, and she tells her she has seen her daughter Proserpina in the underworld, and in the second part, Ceres is beseeching Jupiter for the return of her daughter. So, let's listen to Emily. There is no way Latin is a dead language. That was fantastic. Thank you so much. I know we also have some parents out there. Abby's parents are there, and if please stand and be recognized. And Mr. Schaeferman, Marcus Principal, is here. Yay. Okay. Thank you all so. Oh, I didn't know that. Where are they? There they are, there. Oh, Emily's parents made it. I didn't get them. Okay. Picture time. By the way, Abby's staff is supposed to be Agave's son, right? Okay.
Seems like we should have some snappy Latin comeback for that. But anyway, we have a public hearing now, item G, and we'll turn it over to Dr. Burnett.
Thank you, Mr. Ferguson. At this time, we're required by law to have a public hearing and invite people to speak for or against the taxation of goods in transit that would ordinarily be exempted by Section 11.253 of the Texas Property Tax Code.
Was there anyone who'd like to speak to this? Okay, seeing. If the parents want to leave right now, I'll have a brief pause for anybody to escape. I see that those hands. We have thousands of speakers. Oh, you mean cards? Just a second. Persons desiring, we're now to item H, request to address the board. Persons desiring to address the Board of Trustees must fill a speaker's card prior to the meeting. No presentations will exceed 3 minutes. The board cannot deliberate on any subject that is not included on the agenda. All this is in accordance with the Texas Open Meeting Act. I have 3 cards. I'll call them in order given to me. We have Miss Elizabeth Durand. Durand. You see the timer? You have 3 minutes when that starts. So.
That says, just do it. And I'm asking each one of you to consider that motto and just do it. Build this pool. Now is the time. My son David wrote a college essay, and in that essay he indicated that 500,000 people, 500,000, die needlessly every year because of drowning. Drowning is the 4th leading cause of accidental death in the world. Do you realize that 70% of the earth is made up of water, and yet this is the environment that most people are unaware of or unfamiliar with or don't have the skill to participate in adequately? In August of 2010, a young toddler, Maxwell, died because he slipped out the back door and went to the family swimming pool and then was found later dead. In August of 2010 also, in Shreveport, Louisiana, 6 Black American youths died. Why? Because they were trying to save a friend that was drowning in a sinkhole. 30 people were around, and yet no one had the skill or the ability to save them. You know what? The sad thing was there was a life jacket in the vicinity, but nobody thought to use it. Sad. How tragic. And yet, we can stop some of those needless deaths by building a pool. We have some fine football stadiums. We've got some great baseball diamonds. But I assure you, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone in this room, not one of those sports is going to save a life. Swimming will save a life. How do I know? I was one of those kids that had a near-drowning experience. And because of fear, didn't learn how to swim until I was in college. That's kind of a sad thing. I'd hate for anyone else to go through that experience. But I tell you, swimming is a skill that you can learn as an infant. I know this because I had my son in the water when he was a year old, learning basic skills in the recreational center in Arlington. Swimming is a lifelong skill. You can swim when you're an infant, middle-aged, 80, 90, and God love you if you live to be 100, you can swim. And you don't need a whole team to do it. Please consider building this pool. Thank you.
Next card is Mr. Charlie Porter. Porter. Go ahead.
One size does not fit all. LISD, we have a responsibility to the students and must be held accountable to the taxpayers, us, that the new Westside Aquatic Center not be treated as another school building or a pool in a box, but as a business venture between LISD, the LISD community, and North Texas. I mentioned responsibility and accountability. These two words can be frightening if one is not prepared for the challenge that these words signify. Through gaining knowledge and striving for excellence, LISD will not only succeed in being responsible and accountable, but will succeed in producing a nationally recognized facility that is financially sustainable far into the future. What we are responsible for: first, we are responsible to our students to provide a healthy and safe aquatic environment. That means a facility with the best air quality and water filtration systems. Second, we are responsible to provide an atmosphere conducive to learning. A facility that is well lighted through the use of daylighting and high-efficiency lighting will produce a learning environment. We must also be accountable to the LISD taxpayers in the following way. One, the facility must be energy efficient through a blending of established and newer technologies to contain operating costs. Two, the facility must maximize taxpayer return on investment. Only through proper building, pools, plural design, and aquatic programming can we achieve long-term financial sustainability. Are there guidelines or a guide plan to follow that will increase our chances for success? There is such a plan. USA Swimming's 4 pillars of aquatic programming. If we commit to this blueprint, our chances for success increase exponentially. Pillar 1, learn to swim. Teach kids and adults how to be safe in the water and prevent drownings. How many of us took swim lessons as a kid? I bet the first memory we have is the cold water. With a teaching pool slant diving well that is 85 or 86 degrees warm, there is no more unpleasantness, and important life-saving learning can be accomplished. Pillar 2, aquatic exercise, water walking, aerobics, water weights are a few of the programs that offer exercise to be enjoyed by all ages for a lifetime. To maximize the experience and create recurrent usage, again, the water temp must be that same 85 to 86 degrees warm. Pillar 3, rehabilitation. Hot water, low impact resistance is becoming more recognized as a form of PT and is becoming, that can actually reduce injury time compared to land PT. This type of therapy is accomplished in water temps exceeding 90 degrees. Pillar 4, competitive aquatic athletics. In accordance with USA Swimming and for the safety of these hard-working athletes, water temps are kept between 78 and 81 degrees to allow for swimmers to exert maximum output without overheating. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Last card I have. I forgot to read the wait for applause line. Okay, the last card I have is Mr. Gary Kappelman.
Thanks for your time here. I have a question. I read an article in the Dallas Morning News last month that was entitled "Slowdown May Alter Campus Plans," and got me thinking about the 2008 bond money and what's been built and what's not been built from that bond money. I've been hearing rumors from teachers for the last couple of years even that the Marcus 9th grade campus may not be built, or even it might be built but not staffed. And it got me to thinking, what are our priorities on spending this 2008 bond money? I'm not sure how much of that bond money is left. I see there might be some discussion about that tonight, and I got some information that there is a bond oversight committee to look at this spending. But my question is, what are our priorities? Because I know that we've built a new football stadium for Marcus that I don't believe is necessary at all. I know there is another 9th grade campus that has been built, and another elementary school and an auditorium that haven't been built that were authorized by this bond money. And I just question how we can build a new stadium. Marcus also has a new baseball field and a new gymnasium that have all been built during this last couple of year period, but yet we can't build a 9th grade campus, or there's questions about whether it's going to be built. So my question is, I guess, where are our priorities? Are we trying to build the best sports facilities around, or are we trying to educate our kids and ease the overcrowding that we have in the schools? I know Marcus is very overcrowded. I think a 9th grade campus would help a lot in alleviating that crowding. Thank you.
Thank you. We're on to discussion items. Item number 1 would be LISD investment policy, and that would be Dr. Burnett.
Thank you, Mr. Ferguson. We bring you this as a discussion item. We had it as an information item last month. The proposed changes in our investment policy, as you may recall on our first report, one of the things that was noted was that we didn't achieve the standard on our interest income according to the standards set forth by the state. So we have looked at our policy, and we're requesting these changes in order to try to improve our interest earnings.
And that standard was $20 per student, if I remember correctly.
Yes, sir.
Right. Okay, would now be in order for the board to ask questions of Dr. Burnett or to discuss it among themselves. If anybody has a point, Ms. Latham?
I don't really have a question. I'd just like to say thank you, Dr. Burnett, for finally looking into that. It gives us an opportunity to broaden our investment options. I appreciate it.
I would also like to thank Teresa Maniscalco for her work on this policy as well.
Dr. Burnett, how far short did we fall of the $20 per student, and how much will this change of the investment policy, how much will that enhance that amount?
We received about half of the amount, about $10 per student, a little over between $10 and $11, and we don't yet know what we might receive simply because we don't have a good picture of what the market will be. It could vary. If the market goes up across the board, then our earnings will improve.
Right, but what will be the impact
of course, we're hoping that this will get us up to the standard.
By this change of accounting, you think will get us to that standard?
Well, I don't know that this will do it alone, but that's our hope.
Do we know what our average return was last year? Was it like 0.2% or something like that?
Seemed like it was about 0.1 or 0.115.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
0.1, yeah.
Yeah.
Double that, we'd have to get 0.3. So by mixing in some commercial paper CDs, I mean, there might be some hope. Right? Any other board member to comment?
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Just a question out of curiosity. We moved the average, the weighted average maturity from 270 to 360. Do you know why originally it was 270? Is there some significance with that number?
We don't know that there was any particular reason.
Okay.
It's just it was the industry standard to stay a little shorter. So we're now asking to go a little longer on some of those investments.
I'm good. Thank you.
Else? Thank you, Dr. Burnett. Go on to item 2, that's external physical education with Dr. Rogers.
Thank you, Mr. Ferguson. If you look, Board, at the packet, there's a couple of things, really recommendations at the bottom of the first page. You know, what I've worked on is trying to find some criteria and develop some criteria for future granting of external PE credit for our students. And so we've worked to make these recommendations. One, we believe it should be what the code says in state law, that it should be Olympic level participation. We also don't know that there are students out there that are involved in all types of PE or physical activities that are nationally ranked in different areas that we don't cover in our schools. We believe that participants in NCAA club sports, which would cover such things as lacrosse and some of the things that we have already, you as a board have accepted. We are required in the fourth bullet to ensure that the private or commercially sponsored physical activity is, one, well supervised, and the people that are actually giving the students grades that then pass those grades on to us, that we can, make sure that they're appropriately trained. And so we want to follow up with that. The fifth bullet is a new recommendation. That is that we believe that if we as a school district are going to provide external PE credit, that then the people providing that external PE outside of the school day should go through some type of criminal background check. So we are recommending that that is a new change for us. The second page, really what started some of the discussion were some conflicts regarding what we offer in our high schools versus what we grant external PE credit for. And so we recommend that in the future, if we offer the sport in our high schools only, not middle schools, because we offer things like tennis, golf, external PE credit in middle school, that kids still be allowed to be given external PE credit in middle school level only, because that is a time where, one, we don't offer the sports, and that's a time for a kid to explore options for their future, try to find something that they're interested in. Because there are, if you look at the numbers, there are very few kids right now currently. We have 345 students in LISD that gain external PE credit. But of those, if you take swimming, tennis, and golf in high school, there's like 6 kids in high school alone. We recommend that we grandfather those kids, let them finish the program, but in the future not grant high school external PE credit to that group. Every other kid, we believe we need to be pretty open. If we can monitor it, make sure that the instructors are well trained and they'll supervise the program, then we need to be a little more flexible in the future. We ask that the board, one of our recommendations is that the superintendent or designee in the future will approve future external PE courses, and that we be allowed to just come and present. It does not require a board action, but it's just been a past practice, and that would allow us to serve our parents who come to us in September and ask for external PE credit for a course that their kids are currently enrolled in. In the past, we've had to ask them to wait till the December board meeting, because that's been annually the time that the board's approved external PE classes. We believe that we could consider within the first 5 days of every grading period an external PE application from a parent. We'd make sure that the application is fulfilled as far as the instructors criminal background check, so on. We would check it out. We do have a monitor that goes and checks to make sure that the kids are receiving what they claim to be receiving. And so those are the recommendations, and then we would provide you a report every July as far as what's happening in external PE.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Rogers. It would be in order now for the board to ask questions or discuss this item. You may have any questions or comments?
I do.
Sorry?
As far as the parents pay for the children or students to be able to participate, now is it balancing out what we have to pay the monitor towards what the parents are paying into the 365 students are paying into the program? Is it balancing out what we have to pay for the monitor?
Great question, Ms. Kyer. It does actually pay. The program pays for itself. It is not a cost to the taxpayers as far as additional costs. The money that's collected with the fees pays for the monitor that
Thank you.
checks.
I agree with everything except for the one bullet point, cannot conflict or compete with high school sports, specifically, I said the wrong word, didn't I? Sports, sorry. Specifically tennis, swimming, and golf. You mentioned we only had 6 kids currently, so it's a small number of kids that we would be preventing probably in the future. I don't think we're going to have a big floodgate open of swimmers and golfers and tennis players. But external PE was implemented to allow students to earn their required PE credits outside of school and better utilize their time while they're in school, so they can still earn their course credits. And these are usually kids that are excelling at that particular sport. At the high school level, when they're taking external PE, it's something they're excelling in, right?
That's correct.
I would say that I don't like that it specifically targets those three sports, but I understand that they're high school sports. And if our issue is that we don't have enough kids in our schools participating, then maybe we need to look at how we can increase the participation in those sports. But, today students and their parents lead crazy, hectic lives, not telling you anything that none of us haven't experienced with our own kids. And I just think that we would want to make policies that allow students to use and make the most of their time while they're in school, rather than forcing them to take a PE credit at our school in addition to, trying to get their credits for their classes and whatnot. So to me, I see it as an issue on being most efficient with their time.
And Ms. Latham, there are two levels of external PE. There's level 1, where if they're spending 15 or more hours outside of the school day, then they get to leave school for one period. And so I guess we could, and I think it might answer your concern, we could state that that could be not applicable for level 1 students. The issue, though, from an athletic and high school athletic point of view, is that for the first time, probably in beginning in the last 8 to 10 years, there's great competition as far as the high school athlete with select sports and so on. And if we start to grant external PE credit for soccer and so on, then we may actually damage our high school sports teams. And so that was one of the concerns with why we wanted to not allow that competition, that conflict for high school sports. That was the rationale behind it.
Ms. Latham, you have any further questions?
No, thank you, though.
Ms. Saldi's recognized, and Mr. McDaniel after that.
Mr. Rogers,
Oh,
first,
sorry.
did you say that there would be a waiver process for something that was outside the box that would go to Dr. Waddell and not go to the board?
No, sir. What I'm recommending, Mr. McDaniel, is that the application, which there currently is, and I believe it's attached to your board packet, the application right now, parents submit it, and they have to wait. If they submit it to the athletic office in April, they've in the past been having to wait till every December for it to come in front of the board for that approval to occur. And so what I'm recommending is that the superintendent or designee be allowed within these guidelines to approve an external PE course and then report it to the board. Because it officially, as far as a curriculum, it does not require board policy. It's just been a past practice.
But if it falls within the guidelines here, it'd be automatic anyway, wouldn't it? It wouldn't need the approval of the superintendent or the board?
Well, the approval process currently is that it goes to the athletic director. They meet, they make recommendations to, of course, now it's me who then brings recommendations to the board in December is the past process. And so what we're recommending is that the superintendent or the designee be able to move the process forward to expedite it for parents and students waiting, not having to wait till December one time a year to get their external PE credit approved.
Okay. You said it would have to have criminal background checks. What about I question a program that I've got a son who goes to T-Bar M in North Dallas. He probably works with 25 instructors, through the course of a year.
Well, for that, there has to be one instructor that assigns the grade, and that's part of the application process. So that one instructor that's going to assign the grade for external PE would be the person that the monitor would make sure that we had a criminal background check on.
Okay.
Saldi?
Along the lines of where Ms. Latham was going with her discussion, and you made a comparison to soccer. Soccer is more of, you're working as an individual athlete, but it's a very big team sport. My concerns line with tennis, swimming, golf specifically, because in those sports you tend to be working, you're fine-tuning yourself as an individual athlete, part of a whole team. But there's a greater concentration on you as a specific individual, whether it be your individual swimming time or, your record as an individual on the golf course. And in those cases, we have athletes who are waking up at 6 o'clock in the morning for an early tee time. They need to finish 18 holes, thus taking the first period off from school, and that being their PE time. I'm kind of going the same direction as Ms. Latham, and I think, Dr. Rogers, you alluded to that it might be a possibility with those elite pre-Olympic, whatever have you, athletes at that level. We might be able to make an exception even for tennis, swimming, golf, considering that they're individual, they're more of an individualized sport, because I would hate to have a student withdraw from public school, and so that they could focus on that athletic possibility because we aren't accommodating them. So that's where my concern lies, especially with those 3 sports, because they are more specific to the individual, not the whole team.
Oh, absolutely, and that's certainly not our goal, Ms. Foudy, and certainly this is simply a recommendation. On the flip side, my goal was if a kid, let's say, swims for Coach Gillespie at Marcus and they have first period swimming, then I didn't want them to go to class second and third period, and then because they go and swim with the outside coach, that they would miss swimming, miss class fourth period, and so they're actually having swimming twice, was my concern. And there are some of our swimmers and golfers and tennis players and all types of athletes that are good enough that they can do that. But, I'm certainly not, I'm open to your suggestions.
I think we're not trying to hurt anybody in this, but we do maintain these programs, and we've heard some pleas tonight to build an auditorium. It's to offer sports, whatever the sports are. There's a considerable investment on the part of the district to do those sports. At the same time, as you see in here in the bullets, we've tried to, for those who truly are elite athletes, we're accommodating them.
Absolutely.
So we're not trying to hurt anyone. At the same time, we're saying we're offering these sports, and we want people who are in our schools to participate in those sports. And we're concerned about people getting out of losing class time as well on a regular basis to go do this. So we're trying to find that way that we preserve the integrity of our teams and the investment the district's made in offering those sports, while at the same time recognizing we indeed have some athletes in our district who are elite level. And this allows for those kids to continue to do that.
Another question I had was, if they are missing the first period, are they? We have outside of the classroom wall opportunities like virtual high school that they can enroll in to make those hours up, correct?
Absolutely.
Dr. Rogers, I also agree with, I'd like to see the tennis and the swimming and the golf taken out. I feel like that's going to be, it's forcing our lead athletes to say, you'll play on this high school team, and oftentimes those that are doing the external PE are far and above what there is to competition level there is at the high school. And that's usually the reason that they move on to get the better training. And I just feel like it was penalizing them by making them take PE or going into the program that we're speaking of. So I'd like to see that taken out.
Yes, sir.
I agree, but only at that elite level, at the just participatory level. I understand why you're taking those 3 sports out, but if you could just at the level 1, I'm sorry, I think I was saying level 2 earlier, but the level 1, I'm in agreement with that.
I'm not sure I understand what level 1 and level 2 is, because, oh, yes, I do, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I just now caught on to what y'all were talking about. But for those kids that are competing, if you take the ability for them to take external PE away from them, they're not going to jump on your swim team or your tennis team or your golf team in high school. They're still going to do their thing outside. They're going to go join dodgeball, something that they're not going to get hurt. I just think it's not an efficient use of their time.
I would say that, if we have a star swimmer, and we have lots of star swimmers, and certainly seen lots of state-winning swimmers when I was at Marcus and all of our other schools, it's very seldom that they're not involved with the school program. But I felt like we left ourselves the opening that if they're nationally ranked or whatever, certainly we want to, are involved. We've had lots of junior Olympic soccer players and so on that we want to be flexible with those kids. We're not certainly trying to prevent that.
Well, I guess where we're hung up is this bullet that says cannot conflict or compete with high school sports, tennis, swimming, golf. Remove current external PE offerings for tennis, swimming, and golf for high school only. I guess maybe we just need it worded differently to say, unless they're at level 1.
And that makes sense. And the only reason tennis, swimming, and golf is listed there particularly is that's the only 3 sports currently that are external PE offerings that also we offer in high school. No other sport that we offer in high school is also already approved by the board as an external PE.
That's what I was going to say, because we get the soccer, baseball, we have so many of these select kids that have been playing since they're 5 years old, and they're going to be going to college playing. So, even just girls soccer alone, the number of girls that are leaving school and going and practicing every night, and then playing on the weekends and everything like that. So that's the question I had too, because we also have all those other sports.
Ms. Kyer, I believe that I can work on the wording of this and satisfy the board.
Okay, then. We'll move on to the action items. We'll do these standard Roberts rules. Please, somebody make a motion and second, and then we'll discuss the item, and then we'll vote. So, I'm sorry. Okay, we're not there yet.
I apologize.
Tom, I'd like to make a motion to approve the pre-K report card
We have a motion.
suggested by Dr. Penny Riddell.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion by Ms. Latham, second Ms. Fowdy. Is there any discussion by the board, or Dr. Riddell, would you like to comment on this? I'm still learning.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I had to wait for my microphone to come on. We did discuss this last month. We have gone completely through the process. We've gotten final input from the teachers. Teachers are very excited about implementing this. I believe that our parents will benefit greatly from learning more about what their children are able to do and what they need to learn next.
Any board members have any questions or discussion?
I just had a comment. I think it's a great, as a former early childhood teacher, excellent tool for assessment, but like you said, a great teaching tool for parents so that they can see the developmental stages. I really like the developmental stages of the writing that are provided. It's going to be very helpful for parents.
Thank you. We want to give credit to Kathy Hawley for leading this.
Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, please vote by raising your hand if you're in favor. Is it unanimous, Ms. Arnold?
Mr. Ferguson, I move that we approve the TASB Local Policy Update 90 as suggested by Dr. Rogers.
Clarify the question. Okay, we have a motion, Ms. Latham, second Ms. Fowdy. Is there?
I have some questions. We've heard mention and discussion about this update for a couple of months now, and I kind of got lost in my notes. Were there any changes to our own local policies or new policies that we added as a result of this TASB Update 90?
We have not brought anything forward other than TASB Update 90. No additions at this point in time to our local policies. In the next several months, by the time we finish with 90, 91, it comes out in the next week or so, and we do have some additional local policies that will be attached to that.
Okay.
Any other discussion on that item? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All All in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. It's unanimous, Ms. Arnold. Move on to item J3. The chair would entertain a motion.
Tom, I move that we approve the revised policy GKD, local, non-school use of school facilities.
A motion, Ms. Latham, second, Mr. Knapp. Is there any discussion or debate on this item?
Yep.
Ms. Latham?
Is a chain link fence our only option?
I'm going to defer to Mr. Williams.
I'm concerned about the aesthetics, and I also want to point out that the former Delay property has always had a chain link fence and has always had a sign. This field is for use by LISD only, and we are still having this issue. So is a chain link fence and a sign really going to solve our issue?
Your first question, Ms. Latham, chain link fence is not our only option. It's the option that we've looked at. We believe the fence that is at the old Delay, as you've mentioned, is of an adequate height and doesn't provide much security. The fences that are being proposed are 8 foot tall. We do expect to put some signage on it. Is that going to deter everybody from being there that is not authorized? I doubt it, but it sure will be a great deterrent to help. It sure will give the police some kind of enforcement ability that they've not had before, and we believe it's just another tool to help regulate use of our fields.
So is it the fence that's going to give the police the upper advantage, or is it our cooperation with the police to help us keep our fields intact and not get destroyed on the weekends?
I don't think it's the fence that gives the police that ability. It is signage, specific signage. It is an attempt. It is an attempt on the part of the school district as the owner to regulate use.
Right.
And that, along with signage, can be two pieces of the puzzle that'll help.
I guess I like this policy. I'm worried what these huge chain link fences are going to look like, and just wondered if there was other options that we could maybe look at.
There are other options. We do have these chain link fences at almost half the middle schools now. If you can remember driving by Shadow Ridge or Killian or places like that to see that, but certainly it's an option.
We use this, Ms. Latham, previous district, we did this to protect our fields, and it worked pretty well. Well, you'd rather not do it at all, but whenever you get in a situation where you have use of your field that you really don't want, you sometimes have to make compromises, and it's just one of those things. I think, if I'm not wrong, Mr. Williams, that the police did tell us that they could have stronger intervention when we had fences and posted signs. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. That's correct, Dr. Hill.
I too would like to see specific areas that are visible by the public or major arteries to go with a wrought iron or something other than just a bare chain link fence. I don't think the cost is that much more, and it's just a much nicer look, and it's a more professional look. I would like to see some of that looked into.
I like wrought iron. I don't disagree. I would say that a lot of times wrought iron, you see the individual posts get knocked out. I happened to drive by the practice field at the Dr. Pepper field in Frisco not long ago. That fence was mangled. And so when they're new, they look really good, but around athletic facilities, they sometimes take a beating, and then they look a lot worse than a chain link fence does.
I was just curious, because I know like around Lakeland Elementary, we have the wrought iron fence, so that looks nice. A place like Forestwood, which encompasses a number of parks that, with the town, with Wilkerson Field that's there, and then the playground that's right behind it, those are city, so are we going to be having a fence go right down the side of that so that nobody's going to be able to cross over? Because a lot of the community might get to the, trails by coming out their back fence onto the trail, which means cutting across, Forestwood's, back lot where all their football field is and stuff. So I'm just curious, like Ms. Latham said, about how that's going to look. Because right now it's all open and pretty. And if we put these chain link fence up, I think they're going to be kind of ugly. And I'm just saying that we might get some kickback from some of the neighbors over there that have, for the last 20 years, had this big open field, and all of a sudden we're starting to chain link our kids in.
Ms. Carr, I'd like to speak to that. If obviously we've not approached any of the cities with a permit and a request to do anything specific. We would certainly have to do that, follow the process. And on property that abuts city property or rights of ways or easement, the intent would not be to restrict the public from use of those surrounding areas, and we'd have to work carefully with the cities to make sure we did not do that. So if that helps.
Clarify the question. We're not voting to approve building fences or specific things. That's just part of the recommendation. It's part of the recommendation, but we would have to approve a specific budget item purchase order.
And if you don't mind me saying, I'm a huge advocate of, always have been, of community use of school facilities. I mean, previous construction sites, I resisted putting any fences around the perimeters. I want our public to be able to do that. I think this is specific to the playing field, not the rest of the grounds. Right.
Valdi.
I just need to clarify something from the beginning of the conversation, Mr. Williams. Ms. Latham mentioned that at the specific middle school where some of the issues we've been discussing originated, there already is a fence. It's not 8 feet high, but there is a fence, and there is a sign posted. Is the verbiage on the sign incorrect? Is that why the police have not been able to enforce the rules? Are we looking at a change in verbiage on signs? Because I guess my question is, if we have the fence and the sign, and it hasn't worked, as you stated 2 meetings ago, is this a proper investment?
I do not know, Ms. Fowdy, exactly what the verbiage on the sign is. I know it's in English and it's in Spanish. The problem we've had with regulating use of the field relates to permission that was given to these users from others. And once we have clarified that and got that straightened out, we believe we've got that under control. And to my understanding, that the league that was using that is not doing it anymore. And the police have helped, but we were part of the problem.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Other comments, Mr. Knapp?
Just one question. Is the signage and fence the only option, or if we just put signs up and see how that works? Either way, if you have a fence and somebody crosses it, somebody's going to have to catch them and call and somebody show up. Or if you've got somebody out there and you've got a sign up, do we still have the same enforcement rights? And
It's not the only option. It's the one that we've recommended and believe that will give us the best control. Once again, it's from talking with the police, not to put words in their mouth. It's very hard for us to say we're trying to regulate use of our fields for the protection of our fields, but we have no barrier or anything that would indicate that in a physical presence. We could sure put a sign up, but our recommendation was to put fences with signs. But
so they're looking for a barrier, an actual barrier.
Yes, sir.
Would we do this at every campus, or could we just do it at where we're having the problems? And if Forestwood's not a problem, can we avoid putting something up there?
We have them at half the schools. This recommendation is to do the remainder of the schools with the exception of one that includes city property. The recommendation was just to do them all. We could sure do whatever the board would like to have adjusted.
Mr. Ferguson, if I could, just as a point of procedure, we do have a companion item under the consent agenda on item 10 for chain link fencing, which we have gotten the prices for. Okay. And we have not obtained prices for wrought iron fences because it was our assumption that we wanted our campuses to be somewhat standard or uniform. So if it's the board's direction not to go forward with that particular piece of it, then we would request that you pull that from the consent agenda and allow us to go get pricing on some other options.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Burnett. Any other question or discussion? The motion, to clarify the question is on the adoption of item J3, the approved policy, and as stated, that would not necessarily improve all these recommendations below that other than the policy itself. I mean, the board is not approving with this motion the $160,000 for fences.
Right.
But we're just approving the change in policy. I think the sense of the board is that we want to look at some other options for fencing and so forth, so. Okay, so are there any other question or comments? Here, so you're ready for the question. So we'll vote, please, if all in favor, please raise your right hand. Vote unanimous, Ms. Arnold. It would now be in order for someone to introduce a motion regarding item J4.
I'm sorry, I move that we vote to approve the Bond Oversight Committee and get it off and running.
Okay, a second?
Second.
We have a motion, Mr. McDaniel, second, Ms. Latham. It would now be in order for anyone to discuss or debate this item.
I have a question. Silly me, I read everything for including the minutes of the meeting I wasn't at last month. Have it. But on looking at these Bond Oversight Committee members, I only have one on here. I know, but my second guy's not on here. Excuse me?
Okay.
Ms. Kyer, your recommendations were Kathy Duke and Chris Vaughn.
No. My recommendations were Kathy Duke and Mike Fickling.
Okay.
I sent Chris Vaughn to you saying that if somebody needed somebody.
But we can.
Oh,
we
okay.
can
We can figure.
right now.
Okay, because I don't know. Well, we get, all right, so.
So just a moment. Ask as a point of information, Ms. Permetti, could you please read off the list for us? And ask the board members to listen carefully and verify that your two nominees that you want are on the list that Ms. Permetti reads. Ms. Permetti.
Alex Beck, Kathy Duke, Missy Elias, Scott Ward, Ken Hughes, Reginald Johnson, Claire Korst, Melanie Lamb, Jim Lyles, Chance Oliver, Ed Pete, Linda Rutherford, Lonnie Tipton, and then we would,
Just go ahead and read the list.
and then Chris Vaughn.
Okay. Ms. Kyer, I recognize you for a motion then to amend the.
I would like to amend that, as much as I love
Right.
Chris, to strike Chris from that and put Mike Fickling on there.
Okay. Have a second for that? Second, Ms. Fowdy. Is there any debate on that amendment? All in favor?
No, Miss.
I was just going to ask you if you
Or-
could spell the last name, because I haven't gotten it yet.
Fickling.
Fickling.
Okay, that's the unanimous, the amendment passes unanimously. Okay, so back to the main motion. Is there any other discussion on the motion? All in favor? Unanimous, Ms. Arnold? Now, consent items. As a point of parliamentary procedure, the chair will now entertain items that people want to be considered separately. We will start that with item 210. We'll strike from consideration. Mr. McDaniel, do you have something to strike? This is not to discuss, this is to strike from voting as part of the consent agenda.
Identify acute shortage teaching areas.
You don't want to vote on that.
I would like to have a discussion on it.
Well, that's different. We can discuss anything. I want to know what needs to be voted on separately. Is there any other thing?
Yeah.
You want to vote on that separately? Okay, anything else?
If I can go, I would like to vote separately on 1B, 1F, I had questions about 2B.
Okay, we'll get to questions. This is about voting.
All right, 2D,
We'll vote separately on 2D?
yep, 2F. Okay, with I, 3 and 4.
The chair will state the order of the question then, and seek a motion. We have consent items under general, all items excepting items 1B, E, and F, and under business, all items except 2D, F, I3 and 4, and item 10. Would anyone make that motion? Just say so moved.
So moved.
The motion, Ms. Latham, second, Mr. McDaniel. Okay, now it would be in order for the board to discuss these particular items or ask questions regarding them. No particular, just the ones we're voting on right now. The question is on the items that were not accepted. EXCPTED. We're voting on the items that are not that were not listed as exceptions. So if you have any questions about those items, it would be in order to ask those now.
The only question I had was on 2B, consider report on 2008 bond funds. On the last page of the report, page 79 of our board book, can someone tell me what the column labeled future sales means?
That column describes the money that was in the bond fund for
okay, future sales of bonds.
Right.
Another question I had on that is it lists the Marcus ninth grade center phase 1 was budgeted at 2.9 million and expenditures to date are 3.4 million, but we have not begun work on a ninth grade center for Marcus. So what are we spending money on?
Michael, would you like to address that?
Chair recognizes Mr. Perry.
Mrs. Latham, if you'll recall, we divided Marcus ninth grade up into two phases. The first phase was the baseball field and track. The second phase is the actual structure. First phase is complete. Second phase is still pending.
So we've spent 3.4 million on the baseball field and a track?
Baseball field, track.
Dirt work.
Extensive dirt work and utilities for a future building.
And no, I don't recall. I wasn't on the board then, but that's okay. Seems much longer, right? The last question, what is included in major maintenance improvements and what work did we do at the Lewisville Learning Center? Can you tell you my question again?
I heard major maintenance, Mrs. Latham. I didn't hear the last part of the question.
Yeah, what's included in major maintenance improvements and what work did we do at the Lewisville Learning Center for 2.8 million?
Lewisville Learning Center had a classroom addition on the back side of it that was put on. As for major maintenance projects, I would have to defer to Mr. Williams as to what projects have been completed with maintenance.
Thank you, Ms. Latham. That's our long-range replacement costs: roofs, air conditioning, playgrounds, just a whole list of things.
On the, I don't know who can answer this, on the batting cages, I see we've got Flower Mound batting cage listed, but I did not see the Colony listed on there. Just wondering what we were doing at the Flower Mound and the Colony was sufficient, or?
Mr. Knapp, we're doing softball and baseball at the Colony, and then we're doing just softball at the Flower Mound campus because they have a very nice baseball facility already in place.
Any other discussion on the question? Okay. The question is on the adoption of the consent items that were listed as not being accepted for a separate vote. All in favor, please signify by raising the right hand. That's unanimous. Ms. Arnold? I'll move on. The chair would entertain a motion regarding item 1B.
I move that we consider the approval of MAPS 101.
We have a second. Mr. Knapp. Mr. Knapp, is there any discussion on this item?
Question that I have on this is, I believe this is part of a buy board, and I don't even know who I need to ask. Is that you, Ms. Penny?
I'm not sure I can answer a buy board question. I can tell you some about MAPS 101.
Is MAPS 101 a buy board application, number one? Is it part of a buy board package? Okay. What other applications were looked at?
That's a great question, and I'm sorry I can't tell you that answer. I can certainly get it back to you if you would like to pull it.
And other question I had was, it mentioned that several campuses were interested in buying this application, and if it's so great, why do not all of the campuses want to buy it? Did we ask them why they didn't want it?
We didn't ask them why they didn't want it, but we do know who has requested it and who has not. What we did in bringing this to you was giving us the option, if we decided, if the campuses all wanted to participate in having virtual maps, that we could do this in an economic way. Does that make sense?
Is there any further discussion on this item?
Would we be buying this for all of our campuses or only those who said they wanted it?
Right now, we're buying them only for those who want it. What we can do, if this is something that you approve, is this would give us the ability to buy it for all of the campuses. And this would give us, you know, I guess in some ways I have a personal bias about buying something that might not be used right away. And so it seems like it would be wise to give us the option to go either way. We have some campuses who are concentrating in different areas. I personally, if I were a teacher, would do the happy dance to be able to have this because it could be updated almost instantly and because it could be used in so many different ways.
Okay, well then, now I'm confused because the recommendation is Amy Harp, Social Studies Supervisor, stated teachers and principals on several campuses are interested in purchasing. The board may wish to consider purchasing district-wide for best pricing. So what are we approving?
You're approving the ability to purchase anything up to and including all campuses.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions on this item? Okay, ready for the vote? All in favor? That's unanimous, Ms. Arnold. The board chair would now entertain a motion regarding item 1E.
I would like to move that we delay this item for 1 month and give staff direction to visit with principals and see if there's a way that we can maintain some of our better teachers that the principals want to keep on their staff from the rehire group instead of just tossing the whole group out.
Okay, let me clarify the question. And the question is a motion to postpone 1 month with direction to the administration to re-look at this item.
That's correct.
We have a second. I'm waiting for a second. The motion fails for lack of second. The chair would still entertain a motion for item 1E.
I have a question first.
Wait, it's not in order to ask a question until we have a motion on the table. Ms.
I motion to accept 1E.
Sorry, motion, Ms. Kyerson, Ms. Faldy. Ms. Latham, you're recognized for a question.
What we are approving with this acute teacher shortage is the acknowledgement that that the district will not declare any shortages for the 2012-2013 school year. And the timeline is that affected employees, which is not limited to my knowledge, to only teachers. Correct?
Dr. Waddell, you want to address
Dr.
that?
Haynes, you want to
somebody?
answer
Yes.
that?
In the top of the memorandum that you're reviewing, the Texas Education Agency has declared acute shortage areas for teachers. We do have several categories of employees that we hire now that are rehire category. This particular item addresses teacher shortage areas in the areas of teaching that is identified in the second bullet: mathematics, science, special ed, languages other than English, bilingual English as a second language, and technology applications.
So by approving this, Dr. Haynes, proving that we're acknowledging that we don't have a shortage of the teachers in these subject areas,
That is correct.
and that those that we have rehired after retirement will not be renewed.
That is correct.
But it does not include non-teaching employees that are retire, rehire.
Yes.
Thanks.
Any other questions on the motion?
I have a comment. I feel like this is rather short-sighted. We're moving out a large number of teachers who have a large number of years of experience, and some of our best teachers. And you know, I really believe that we ought to give our principals the wherewithal to say there are some that I don't want to lose from my staff. I think they're indispensable and they're irreplaceable. One of the things that I've heard from several that fall within this category is that if it's about money, talk to us about lowering that salary. Work with us, but don't just toss us out. And I think there's some wisdom there, and I would like to see that happen.
Ms. Feldy?
Point of clarification for me. So this would mean any employee who is a retire, rehire would not be extended a contract, or just teachers?
Teachers are the ones that hold the contracts. The other personnel, secretaries and other paras do not have contracts.
So what about principals?
Principal, we have one who's serving out the rest of this year until we hire a new principal, and he has no contract.
Ms. Haynes, could, on the letter on this, it states districts must give preference in the hiring process for a position as a classroom teacher to certified applicants who are not retirees, and it's from the government code.
Yes, it is. It's the law.
Just a question then, so if we let these people go, are we going to backfill these positions, or are these?
It depends on the positions that they hold.
And there's no flexibility, to Mike's concern, there's no flexibility if we approve this?
Not according to the law. First of all, you have to declare the shortage, and if you have no shortage, then the second part kicks in, and that is the declaration of we have no teacher shortage in these areas. Now, we have had them up until last year, especially in math and science when we went to the 4x4, and also in bilingual special ed. But this district has done an excellent job in supporting its bilingual staff, and our staff is staying in place thanks to our second language people and the audience. So our needs in math and science, as well as special education, as noted in the information, that we do have over 25,000 applicants available to us at any given point in time, so that our principals have plenty to choose from. But in this particular instance, when you declare that the district does not have a shortage, which we do not, then the second part of the government code kicks in, that you have to give preference to certified people who are not retire rehires.
So in that case, there would be no possibility that we couldn't find a math teacher, and so then we went back next fall and said, we're going to hire somebody who was a retiree? Would this eliminate that possibility?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So
The board have any other comment? Mr. Knapp?
I'm just running this through my corporate head. So we don't have a shortage. So if we let somebody go, we wouldn't be filling that position because we're not. When we say we don't have a shortage, we don't have a need. Maybe I'm misinterpreting.
Yeah, let me see if I can clarify that. The shortage is saying that we're going to have to go outside the pool of classroom teacher applicants into the retiree pool to fill a position. It's not that we don't have enough teachers per se, it's where we're going to draw applicants from. Is that correct, Dr. Haynes? Did I state that correctly?
Yes,
Never
you
mind, I
did
cut you.
very well, Mr. Ferguson.
Thank you, ma'am.
I think what you're seeing here is the effect of the cuts that have been made across the state. And there's just a lot more people in the teaching pool now, and so a lot of people are looking for jobs. In the past, as Ms. Haynes, as Dr. Haynes said, These areas that are listed here have been just critical areas. You just couldn't find people to teach. But that's changing as a result of, I think, staffs reducing their, school districts reducing their staffing sizes.
The people we're reducing are people that have already retired at some point in time.
And we would be replacing
Probably contributes to
them.
that.
And we would be replacing those retired teachers that we have rehired with teachers that are in our current HR pool that have not already retired.
Right.
That would be in accordance with the law.
That would be,
And all we're
yes.
doing in passing this motion is acknowledging reality that we don't have a teacher shortage in any of these areas. As certified by HR, we've got 25,000 applicants in our database. But it
And it
doesn't
would-
seem like there's a matter of much judgment here.
Well, I think the problem, Mr. Ferguson, that everyone's having is while I agree with you, that the bottom line is that we all agree we don't have a shortage of teachers to choose from in these different areas. The problem that we're having is that we're telling those retired teachers that we have rehired that we will not be renewing them, but we're not expanding that to everyone else in the district with this, because I understand that not everyone else in the district is a part of this shortage, and I think that's just what I'm having a hard time with.
Yeah, I don't think that's the case, Ms. Latham. And it's not saying that at all. It's just saying that there's not an acute teacher shortage, and teachers that are affected by that declaration, that's changed. But it doesn't say anything about whether about keeping, hiring or not, retaining or not retaining other employees.
Only other classes would be the at-will employees, which are not contract anyway, and then the administrators, and you said there's one right now that we have acting for a principal end-of-year kind of deal, right?
Yes, sir. And when you look at the number of people involved, it's a very small number. I think it was in 2003, the board passed a resolution not to hire rehires in the district. So the number has dropped dramatically since 2003. So we're talking about a very small number of individuals.
Any other comment on that?
It's don't hold me to the number, but I think it's between 12 and 15, very small number than what we had in 2003.
Thank you, Dr. Haynes. Any other board member like to comment or question? Okay, so the question is adoption of item 1E is moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye, or raise your right hand. Okay, in favor, Ms. Fowdy, Ms. Kyer, Mr. Knapp, and Mr. Ferguson. All opposed? Mr. McDaniel, Ms. Latham. Motion carries. Chair will entertain item motion regarding item 1F. Oh, we just did 1E from 1F. I didn't have 1D, it was not accepted. It's already, 1D is already approved. Okay, but I didn't. So do you have a question on it? The point of privilege, you can go back and we'll discuss it. Okay, if you would go ahead.
I'd like to know what kind of revenue. It's a business property tax on goods in transit. What kind of revenue does the district?
Sorry, that's 2D.
Oh, I'm
That
so
is
sorry.
accepted. We're on 1F. Now, can we go back to 1F? Thank you.
You have too many
Do you have a motion
letters.
regarding 1F?
Not enough numbers.
Before the chair calls on somebody, will somebody please make a motion on 1F?
So moved. I
Thank
move
you,
that
Ms.
we consider
Fowdy.
the approval for class size waivers.
I second.
We have a motion, Ms. Fowdy, second, Ms. Kyer. Is there discussion on the question?
I'll speak to that motion.
Thank you, Ms. Fowdy.
Mr. Chair, before we begin the discussion, I would like to update and amend what is before you.
Okay.
We had an addition to the letter as well as to a campus. We are adding Vickery, and Vickery will have an exception at Kinder. Also, as a point of information, anytime a class size extends beyond the 22-to-1, we will be back to the board to ask for a maximum class size exemption. This is not once. If we have something that happens in 2 weeks, we'll be back in November. So this is not a one-time, we have
Okay.
to wait again.
Thank you, Dr. Haynes. Ms. Falvey would still make the motion.
That was,
Is that-
I made the motion, right?
Right.
So do I need
But
to
it's
make
been
it again?
No, I'm just saying you accept that change.
I accept.
And Ms. Carter
Move we accept
seconds,
that
still
change.
stands. Okay, is there discussion? Ms. Falvey is recognized to speak to the motion.
Dr. Haynes answered one of my questions, and I'd just like to comment. There was an interesting article, I believe it was last week, in the Dallas Morning News about the incredible numbers of waivers that some districts are having to pass, and in comparison, ours seems to be, although you never want to have to pass a waiver in the current financial state the state has left school districts, and in the state of Texas, we are finding ourselves as this being our necessity. And I don't know, Dr. Weldell, do you have any other insight on that?
Well, I'd just like to say, Ms. Fowdy, that I just have to commend our staff for the job that they've done on this. I think it's, in even better years financially, 26 waivers is a real low number for a school district this size, and considering the deep cuts in state funding for LISD this year that was $22 million from the year before, to have worked this out, that you'd only have 25 waivers, I think is incredible. And, I want to recognize that other districts in our area are facing deep cuts as well, and I know they're doing the best that they can to solve those problems. They're under a lot of pressure, but, there's a district that is just to the east of us with 110 waivers, to just give you some perspective. Northside ISD in San Antonio, 440. Abilene, 101. Another district just to the east of us, 96 waivers. And one just to the south of us, 50 waivers. And there's another one to our southeast, adjacent to us, with 262 waivers. So just ringing our district, really, waivers ranging from 50 to 96 to 110 to 262. We're sitting at 10% of that. So I think it's a pretty good job on the part of our staff managing a tough situation. And we're happy that we're able, even with the cuts, to pretty much with 53,000 kids to comply with the 22-to-1 rule.
Thank you, Dr. Waddell. Mr. Knapp, I think would like to comment.
Just a comment, and I think I'm safe in saying this. When we have these waivers, when we increase the class size, we actually look at the facilities we're putting the kids in as well. At least I hope we do, because I've seen some elementary schools where the older buildings, you could put 28 students in there, they're going to be bouncing off the walls. So just as a public comment, we do take a look at that as well.
I believe I can say this with all, and not be corrected, but we don't exceed 25. So you're talking about 3 additional kids.
I'd
Any other
also
board member
like
want
to
to-
comment, Mr.
Go
Ferguson,
ahead.
that our principals have worked very, very hard with the parents to let them know exactly what our situation is, and they have been very responsive and very positive and helping to do whatever they can to help this situation work for the teachers in the classroom. So kudos to our parents and community for supporting the efforts of being responsible in terms of our funding.
Thank you, Dr. Haynes. Any other board member like to comment? Question. Okay, so you ready for the question?
Can I add one more
Oh,
thing?
Dr. Waddell.
Since it has been brought up to be discussed, have some discussion, I do want to remind everybody that we face another round of significant cuts next year, and so, the decrease in state aid is putting a lot of pressure. The reason these other districts are doing that, because they've faced a big problem, and we are too, and this will be even more difficult to deal with next year due to the state funding situation.
Okay. Favor? That's unanimous, Ms. Arnold. We're now to item 2D. I need a motion regarding this item.
Make a motion that we postpone taking action on this item as several of the cities in the district that we support have not taken action on this item.
Okay, we have a motion postponed by Ms. Latham. Is there a second?
Second.
And Mr. McDaniel. Discussion on the motion we postpone. Ms. Latham, you recognize first to speak to your motion.
Thank you. I'm kind of curious as to why this is on the consent agenda when it was just introduced to us today. I had to do some quick homework this weekend. And from the looks on some of y'all's faces, y'all don't know what it is either.
Dr. Burnett may want to add to this, but I would say this is the time of year that this has to be considered by school districts, and so that's the best answer I can give at this time.
Dr. Burnett, would you like to speak to?
We do have until December 31st to act on it. It was our understanding that this was something the district has done in the past, and it was a continued practice of the district.
Melody? You have a question?
I have another question. What kind of revenue do you expect to be generated?
We asked that question of the appraisal district, and they have it in, they had, for starters, it's embedded in some of their other categories, and they couldn't extract that data. And they also said it varies from year to year, but we'll ask them again and get that information if you choose to postpone it and consider it either in November or December.
I would just like to add that this is a personal property tax on businesses that basically warehouse goods or distribution centers. And I don't think that this would be considered helpful in the economic development, specifically in Lewisville, Flower Mound, and Grapevine, just based on those areas. So I'd really like to see what the cities are doing with this.
Okay, any other question? The question right now is on the motion to postpone this item.
Is this something that comes up every year? Is this an annual thing?
I think that is my understanding that the district chose to do this some 4 years ago or 5 years ago, 2007, and the legislature changed the law somewhat and required taxing entities to redo it and if they wanted to choose to continue taxing it. And it was our understanding that since this was the practice of the district would want to continue that. That's why it's on the consent agenda.
So in other words, this is already in place.
It's already in place. It's a matter of whether or not you simply want to continue that. And if you, if that's the practice of the district, we'll certainly, if it's the wish of the board to consider it at a later time, we'll certainly go back and try to dig that data up, because as you're right, it is embedded in the business property tax.
So we didn't take action on this last year. We didn't have to.
No,
approve
and
this or
we
anything?
don't think you would take action on it again until the statute changed in some legislative session.
Okay, so Ms. Latham's concerned. It's getting late.
Thanks to Carol.
They're probably not even aware of it then.
The cities? No, the
Right.
cities are aware of it. I've
They
talked to several of them. And they're still researching to see
Okay.
exactly what the new law says and what the impact would be, because it will affect some projects that they're working on.
Well, they would be in the same boat we are. If they've already got it in place, they would have to renew it.
Yeah, they're going to have to
Right.
renew it or
Right.
not. Mhm.
Right.
So you're postponing it just to give them the opportunity to speak up, is what you're suggesting?
Correct.
Okay, any other comments?
Well, this is another tax, and I would love the revenue, but, without going to the cities and saying, will it damage your economic development? Do you have projects coming in that this might hinder? We might forego this and lose those taxes, but if we can gain several large warehouses in the interim because we've not passed this, it's definitely something worth looking at. And I think we ought to get the input from all the communities that we're representing.
I know you know this, but I'm just reminding everyone, any addition to our property tax base will not help us in terms of our maintenance and operations. It will help the city, but it won't help the ISD. So they benefit from increase in property values, we don't. The only place we benefit from that is in debt service.
Right. Any other questions from the board? Where the vote is on the motion to postpone. All in favor, please signify by raising the right hand. That's Mr. Knapp, Mr. McDaniel, Ms. Latham, Mr. Ferguson. All opposed? Ms. Fowler, Ms. Kyer, motion to postpone carries 4-2. We'll go to item 2F. Chair will consider a motion regarding item 2F.
Mr. Ferguson, I move to consider consulting agreement related to school finance consulting services with Moak and Casey and Associates Incorporated.
Thank you. I have a motion, Ms. Fowler. Is there a second? Second, Ms. Kyer. Is there any discussion?
I have
Ms. Latham.
several questions on this.
Ms. Latham, you have the floor.
Thank you. I know that we had talked about doing an efficiency and salary study during the budget approval process, and I totally am on board on that, but I don't recall receiving any information about what firm we would select, or if it had to be sent out for bid. I was curious why we chose this firm. I also have concerns that it talks about reviewing 2 high schools or 1 high school and 1 middle school. When we have 41 elementary schools, 15 middle schools, and 5 high school campuses, why, I don't think looking at 1 or 2 campuses is a very good sample. I would like to see the analysis of the librarian and counseling staff at the high school level as well. And I also wanted to know if the anticipated annual expense for 2011 and 12, is this a multi-year agreement that we're going into, or just a one-time agreement?
Riddell.
I'll see if I can remember all the questions. First of all, going backwards, it's a one-time. So it's this year. I think thinking on, we can certainly add things to the scope of this, but they're looking at efficiency on how we do our staffing. And the reason and Dr. Burnett may want to add to this, but the reason for the schools is their samples, and the assumption is that we staff pretty much the same way. So what you do at the high school level, we staff at the high school the same way. So by choosing a high school, we get a picture of how we staff, and so that's what they're going on, not every single high school being different, because they're essentially not. I mean, there may be different numbers there, but the method we use to staff is the same. So we're looking at the different levels. The sampling is to pull out and go, how do you staff at the high school, how do you staff at the middle school, how do you staff at the elementary, and see if that's consistent with what's generally done in the state from an efficiency standpoint. The reason for Moak Casey is they're probably the best known, most knowledgeable consulting firm in Texas regarding these kinds of issues, and they're highly respected, have more experience than anybody else. So that's why we're interested in working with them.
So we could add to the scope of the study to run an efficiency audit on central administration and maintenance and all areas of the district, or are we just going to focus on at the campus level?
I think, we're looking, when we originally got started on this, we were looking at business operations, and but we expanded out to look at how we were doing campuses and those kinds of things. But Moak Casey's willing to, they could study whatever it is that we want them to study as far as staffing is concerned.
So when would we give our input on what we would like to be included in the scope, since I know we talked about it, but it was never brought back to us for discussion or anything?
At any, we can, I don't have it memorized, everything that's in there. So going back and looking at what they have in there, but if you brought up administration, if that's not specific.
Office, right, yeah.
It's really aimed, a lot of it's aimed at business operations right now.
Is there any other questions?
Isn't Moat Casey a lobbyist firm also? Didn't we use them several years back, school finance?
No, they're not lobbyists. They're not lobbyists.
We
They're-
used
they're-
Dave Thompson. That's not Mo Casey.
Okay.
I
They're-
mean, they've
they're-
been around for a long time, and you might have gone to
They're
some of the
finance
TASB,
consultants,
school
but-
finance and stuff like that. You'll see them at TASB doing classes and
They
stuff.
don't lobby.
But Dave Thompson was the one that we used for the lawyer when we were going through the lawsuit against the state.
Okay. We don't need to put out an RFP on this to see who else is available and what the pricing would be?
Not for consulting services.
Okay.
Any other questions on item 2F? Ready for the vote? All in favor? Raise your right hand. It is unanimous, Ms. Arnold. Okay, we need a motion on item 2I3. The board will, the chair will state the motion, renewal of CSP 2001-08, Social Studies Program grades K through 12. Do I have a motion?
I motion that we approve the Romeo Music by Board and Education Purchasing Cooperative with North Texas EPC&T.
I'm looking at item I3. I3. I'm looking at the wrong thing. Yeah, it's Social Studies Program. K through 12. I just need somebody to say so moved at this point.
So moved.
And I'm second it.
Okay, a motion, Ms. Fowley, second, Ms. Kyer. Is there discussion? Okay, somebody pulled this off for separate discussions, and they made a separate. All right, now, are you ready for the vote? Okay, all in favor? It's unanimous, Ms. Arnold. I need a motion on item 2I4. That would be the renewal of RFQ 206309 Geotechnical Engineering Services.
So moved.
So moved by Ms. Fowdy. Second, Ms. Kyer. Is there any discussion on this item?
Why would we need to extend the contract for projects that we've already completed, such as Harmon Campus and Forestwood Middle School?
Mr. Perry, maybe, or Mr. Williams? Will the real person stand? It's Mr. Perry, thank you.
I will not hesitate.
Thank you, sir.
Mrs. Latham, we don't. Those projects are complete. What we're asking you tonight to do is to extend it. This is the third year of a 5-year contract. So we're asking you to extend it for future projects that are coming up. And what we've done is that's contingent, of course, upon what projects we build this year. And so we've tried to give you a good engineer's estimate or budget number of what we expect to spend this year.
Okay, I just said that because in the backup that we were given, it said current projects that SHW Group is working on are. So that's why I threw a
Yes,
flag,
ma'am.
because I thought they were completed.
Right.
What is the Delay Middle School Athletic Storage Project? And why wasn't it included in the rebuild?
It was not included in the rebuild. It is a storage building that we put at all of our middle schools. It is an opportunity for us to go back and put it at Delay. It is going out for bid, should bid this week.
Thank you for that.
Any other discussion on the question?
Yeah, what is the recite of existing SHW Lewisville design? What does that mean? It says recite of existing SHW Lewisville design.
Mrs. Latham, I'm not quite sure where that's coming from. I may not have that page.
Page is that?
Page 174, fellow board members, will be the next to last page of your packet.
This is contract extension. I have geotech. Is that not the question we're looking at? Mr. Ferguson, I apologize. I thought we were on geotech engineering services.
All right.
We are. Item I4.
Mrs. Latham handed me renewal of architectural services.
Okay, that's-
I'd be glad to answer questions
That's
on
not
both.
under, that's not, that would be out of order right now
Okay,
then.
yep, my agenda's messed up, so.
Okay.
I'm not trying to avoid the question.
no.
I'd be glad to answer questions on both, but
Let's go, let's speak to this item that's on the floor.
Mr. Perry, I have a question.
On item I4?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. McDaniel, please.
Normally, the geotech services would be part of a contract that we extended to whoever's building the building. Why are we separating that out and then asking them to pay for that, those services later, the contractor?
Mr. McDaniels, you're exactly right. That is a pass-through cost by our design team. We end up paying for that, and what we do is we go out for bid for these services. We ask our design team to use who we feel like is the most qualified bidder. In this particular case, our primary is Fugro and our secondary is Alpha Testing. We ask our design team to use those engineers. It is a pass-through cost through us according to the bids that we have received from them. That way we feel like we get better competitive numbers by doing that.
You separate one portion of a contract and say, we'll save money here as opposed to allowing them to see if they can get it for cheaper? I'm not following you there, Mr. Perry.
You know, we don't want our architects and our design team to just go out and pick who they feel like is appropriate. We want them to use who we've actually gone through a fair and competitive bid process on. And that's what we've done here with Fugro and Alpha. And then we've assigned those engineers to our design team. It's not uncommon for the owner to contract directly with those services, but in this particular case, it is a reimbursement cost that our architect passes through to us.
Do you feel like we get a better analysis from these than others? I just don't understand why we even bother with that when it's normally part of the contractor's job.
Well, there's two parts of that, and there's always the conflict of interest. We are paying a consultant to give us answers back. We would prefer that they work directly for us, and that way we feel like we get fair and honest answers back to them on their engineering services. And that's why we go out to bid for them, and we don't let somebody else, a contractor or an architect or design team, to actually go out and bid those services. We bid them here. That way we feel like we get fair and honest results back from our geotechnical services.
If I may add on this, Mr. McDaniel, the geotechnical services have always been, at least in my experience, a responsibility of the owner, and is separated out from the contract of the architect because it goes to the analysis of whatever site you're picking for the building, and the geotechnical work has to be done, and those reports given to the architect and the structural engineering team before they can begin to design a foundation. So it's really a part of the design process and not part of the actual construction process.
Thank you.
Is there any other question or discussion on item 2I4? Ready for the vote? All in favor? That is unanimous, Ms. Arnold. The chair would point out we've already approved item 2I13, but we would extend to Ms. Latham privilege of asking a question if she would like to do so at this time. Okay, there's no other legal business for the board. We are now adjourned. At time is 8:47 p.m.